Welcome to Chapter 18, the launch chapter for my build of the 1/350 scale Polar Lights Refit Enterprise. It's been a 17-month journey to get this vessel spaceworthy, structurally sound, fully lit, and ready for its launch. Thank you to everyone who has come with me on this journey, my first ever YouTube build series, my second build of the Polar Lights 1/350 Enterprise. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've seen every chapter so far, fantastic. If this is your first chapter that you're watching, I hope you enjoy. If you've come with me on the journey, I hope you found some amusement, some enjoyment, and hopefully gotten some tips to help you in your build of, if not this ship, then other ships and working with integrated lighting systems. This build was a lot longer than I expected. My first build of the 1/350 refit took 9 months. It was my first time with any type of spaceship model of this scale, my first time in building a lighting system of this scale, and I got a lot of great tips from YouTube build series. I was pleased with how that ship came out, but the lighting system was static. It came on, it came off. And so after that, I really wanted to step things up and to build something that had a little bit more of integrated, sophisticated light system, a little more advanced light system. Also wanted to correct a few of the problems that I had with the first build. This kit is notorious for problems. This kit fights you. Did I overcome some of those problems? A few yes, a few no. But anyway, 17 months, and I'm very pleased to say this ship is ready to launch. There are several things that stretched out this build. This kit, like I said, has a reputation for problems and construction problems, and boy does it live up to it. There's a lot of times, especially as you get further into the build, that I would come across something and go, I thought I fixed that. I thought I fixed that months ago. I thought I fixed that last week. And here I am again trying to knock it out. At least 4 of the months spread out across the 17-month build was in fixing things. A good portion of summer of 2024 was overcoming a circuitry problem that I had. I used Tenna Controls circuitry board, integrated circuitry board, for some of the advanced lighting functions of this kit. It's a fantastic product. Ralph Tenaglia and Tenna Controls makes really great circuitry boards and accessory parts for lighting different spaceships, for lighting this ship. It's a great product. I did a little bit of something wrong, and the deflector dish function, where the deflector dish starts up, ramps up in amber and then changes to blue, stopped working. I had all the lights and everything spread out across, all the wires spread out across my work surface, and really didn't want to dismantle all of that until I got it fixed. Ultimately, Ralph and his team were able to help me overcome that, and this deflector dish function worked great. November, about this time a year ago, after I got the secondary hull and the pylons, the nacelle pylons together, I had really bad ghosting of light coming through the hull. Now, they weren't light leaks coming from the seams, they were it was ghosting. Probably the number one problem, the number one thing that I've had to repeatedly overcome with this build, and I'm not sure why, because it didn't happen in my first build, is light ghosting through the styrene plastic. Even though I gave everything multiple coats of Krylon black spray paint to light block everything from the inside and the outside, once I would get everything together, and even after lighting tests, I would find that there were places where light was ghosting through. It took about 5 weeks to overcome the lighting issue here, overcome the ghosting that came through. I mentioned it in a previous chapter. Once just about everything was completely together, I had some ghosting coming through right here from these little lights around the deflector dish housing, the little RCS thrusters. I had a really bad orange glow coming through here. Again, even though I hit everything with multiple coats of Krylon black for light blocking. So I had to very carefully mask and paint to get that overcome. So about 6 weeks ago, I finished up chapter 17 with just the registry marking decals to go. Chapter 17, a lot was dedicated and devoted to the Aztec decaling that provides this really great plating look of the kit. Those Aztec decals were from Polar Lights. It is a supplementary decal package. And it's a really great set of decals. If you don't want to mask and paint the Aztec effect yourself, then I highly recommend the decals. So when I wrapped that up in chapter 17 and I said it was down to the registry markings, I thought that I would have about a week or so to go. That was almost 6 weeks ago. Just last week, after I had got the registry markings down and I had just a few of the little red marks and things like that that go across the nacelles, I came up for what I thought would be about an hour's work and lay down the last of these little red hash marks, and then discovered that a portion of the red pinstriping on the bridge dome had cracked away. Less than half an inch, it's a little tiny portion, had dried off and cracked away. So in trying to fix that, again, sometimes when you're trying to fix one thing, it cascades and you're fixing more than you intended. A lot of the pinstripe, this red pinstripe decal, started to crack and come apart. It took over 2 hours to get that fixed, and I never got to the last hour that I intended. That's pretty typical of this kit. Lesson learned there: once you get your decals, particularly any type of long red pinstripe, or the little circular red pinstripes that go around lighting, as soon as they dry, hit them with microsol so they will more firmly bond to the styrene hull, and you'll be less likely to have them flake away. Again, there are times that you come in to fix one thing and another thing breaks. There are times when one thing cascades into another, and there are times that honestly I was afraid to touch the doggone thing, and I would just sit here, look at it, get up, and walk away. In chapter 11, I believe it is, of Sprueverse, and that is a great build series for this kit, Phil mentions that when you've got a lot of the lighting systems that are in this kit, and once you start folding all the wiring into your secondary hull and all of the wiring that's running up through the dorsal and some of the wiring in the saucer, once you start carefully, as much as possible, folding all that wiring into place, shoving all that wiring into place, sometimes it impacts lighting systems that you've already tested, that you've already had working, and things will shut off. That has happened from time to time in my build of this ship. Again, sometimes you fix one thing, sometimes you get one thing in place and something else goes wrong. Towards the end of the build, when I was just about to close up the saucer section, and I did a final light check of the antenna controls board, I did something wrong. I know that it was my error, and I completely shorted out the entire board. I completely blew out the board, and so mailed it back to antenna controls. Sent a note to Ralph what had happened. His team is really fantastic, exceptional customer service and exceptional product service. His team was able to very quickly make the repair, a very small repair fee, and shipped it right back to me, and it worked just fine. Got the circuitry board in place, got the final connections in place, and it worked out great. And then once all of this was together, the saucer sections were done and all the wiring, the cells were in place, I very slightly rotated the ship on its support rod, and all of the static lighting, all of the window lighting and the bridge spots went out, just completely winked out. I very carefully rotated it back and everything came back on. And that was one of those moments that almost defeated me. That was I just had to get up and walk away, and probably not even touch the ship for about 2 weeks, until I finally realized that this is the way the ship is going to be, and all of my handling of it and moving it and putting it in place. I'm just going to make absolutely sure that I in no way rotate this ship, because I don't want all those lighting systems to wink out. At this point, I want to talk a little bit about what I did with the base. I said before, I think the Polar Lights design team did a fantastic job with the design of the base for this kit. It's well designed to support the enormous weight of this really large ship, and the center shaft that runs up into the deflector dish. There's a great weight distribution for the ship itself, and then it's very well supported on the base. Also, the understructure of the base, you have a lot of open space where you can do a lot of wiring runs in case you have a lot of wires, such as this kit and a lot of other builders. It's also a really great looking design. It replicates that wire structure of the dry dock in the dry dock sequence of Star Trek the Motion Picture. So, and also these decals, these sort of Art Deco looking light panels look great. So back in my first build, I ordered a duplicate sheet of the Polar Lights stock decals for this. I'm really glad I did. It only cost about 20 bucks or so, and it gave me a lot of flexibility in case any of the stock decals, and I have mentioned several times that some of those stock decals are really problematic if they came apart or ripped into pieces or whatever. It's good to have spares, but that meant that going into this build, when I got an all new sheet for the stock decals, that I had some left over. I had some duplication, and there's just some of the decals I've always thought kind of go to waste. A lot of the landing panel decals that go into the shuttle bay, you really don't see them. These great little lifeboat emergency indicator signs, they are deep down in the lower cargo hold of the shuttle bay, and they are actually behind the turbo lifts. You really can't see them, and it's a great design, so they kind of go to waste. So I decided that I would put all of this to use. I mean, if it is a dry dock and there's a lot of work going on, you probably may have a need for a lifeboat and lifeboat exits, and then also your cargo hatches. So I decided to add a lot to the look of the base and really make more of a diorama. You also get all of these great little supplementary spacecraft, your interstellar warp shuttles here, your travel pods, the work bees, and with my first build, I never really knew what to do with all those little tiny ships. If you cram them all in the shuttle bay, they kind of go to waste because they take up a lot of space, and you really can't see the detail of the shuttle bay. So they're just things that are kind of sitting around. With this design, I think I've got a great looking little diorama. They still move around. I can pick them up, move them around, and do cool little things with them. So it's difficult deciding, after you spent months and months and a lot of time in getting everything ready, at what point you say you're finished with this kit. Actually, at this point, even after doing dozens of the little red dots and little red triangles and the little hash marks and the little black squiggles and things like that over the nacelles, there's still more to go that I'm just not going to do. There are these little teeny black pips, little teeny black points that go along the inside of the nacelles, about 30 of them, that I just decided that I'm not going to go with. And there's other aspects of this build that I decided not to do. The antenna control circuitry board that powers the different lighting features, the warp sequence, the navigation lights, and the strobe lights that blink at different speeds, also powers a lighting sequence in the shuttle bay. I've never really liked that sequence. I have seen it in other builds, and it's kind of cool, and it's a series of flashing runway lights for your shuttle bay landing area. I've never particularly liked the speed at which those chaser lights run. To me, it kind of throws the scale off. I've seen one or two builders that get it right. Congrats to them. But and it's something that you really don't see in the first movie, Star Trek: The Motion Picture. And I was trying to replicate the way this ship looked and functioned in Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Those chaser lights in the shuttle bay you really don't see until Star Trek V. So, yeah. But not only did I not like that look, it's just more stuff to do. 4 lights on each side, 2 connections each light. That's 8 more connections, more wiring that have to run through under the shuttle bay. Then more wires that have to run up through the dorsal, through the holes in the bottom of the saucer, and more connections to make. I honestly don't know how I could cram more wires running up through that neck. Of course, other builders do it. Of course, other builders pull it off. It's just something that I decided that I didn't want to do. And there's a lot of builders who really achieve a fantastic effect. My hat's off to them of using masks. Lou Del Maso at Aztec Dummy makes fantastic paint masks to replicate and achieve the Aztec paneling look. There's also masks so that you can achieve this really great multi-hued, multicolored pearlescent effect. This really scintillating pearlescent effect of colors. It's fantastic. My hat's off to builders and painters who achieve that effect. 17 months, a lot of life has happened in the building of this ship. When I first got started, a 12-year relationship kind of fizzled and sputtered out. But fortunately, just a few months after that, I met someone that I've mentioned in a few of the chapters, someone who's actually helped me with this build, Eileen, and just recently got married. Actually wanted to finish this ship before I got married, but it kind of moved at its own pace. Part of that process was selling my house. So the original location where the first 15 or so chapters of Walker Street Shipyards, the build facilities of Walker Street Shipyards, was shut down, boxed everything up, and relocated and set up a new shipyard, a new hobby room in the new house where I moved in. So it is possible to pull a lot off. In fact, I believe it's chapter 12 where I mount the lower section of the saucer to the top of the dorsal. And it was at that point that I boxed everything up, moved everything over. It was about 6 weeks that I didn't get any building done as I readied the new building facility, the new hobby room. And finally made those final connections to close down the saucer. So it is possible to have that type of interruption and overcome it. So my oldest son graduated from college, out-of-state college, moved to a new city, starting his new professional life. My youngest son started his junior year, and again, out-of-state college. A lot of things have happened over the 17 months that it took to put this ship together. There's a lot of folks that I want to thank that have been instrumental and really helped in providing products, providing encouragement, providing tips for the build of this ship. Like I said, in my first build is when I discovered some YouTube build series. Boyd Crompton's excellent series, Trek Work. That's another very unfortunate thing that occurred over the 17-month build time of this ship. Boyd Crompton, about this time a year ago, passed away from cancer. The hobby lost a great artisan, lost a great voice. At this time, the Trek Works build series still up on YouTube. I highly encourage you to check out his videos. Even if you're not building anything right now, the joy that Boyd felt and showed in his videos for this hobby was really fantastic. Chiefly instrumental is Matt's build series, Matt's Model Shop. That is where I got the majority of the tips and recommendations to build the first build, and that is what encouraged me to launch my own build series, Walker Street Shipyards. After I posted my first video, Matt chimed in the comments and gave me encouragement, and over this build has continued to make comments, give me encouragement, provide some tips as well if I ever missed anything in a certain chapter. And so thank you so much for that, Matt. It was Matt who I first noticed in one of his builds, instead of the traditional method of closing up the two saucer halves and then mounting the fully assembled saucer to the top of the dorsal, which is how most people build this kit, which is how I built it the first time, Matt had mounted the lower saucer to the top of the dorsal. I noticed that, and that's the way I undertook it. I was able to message Matt back and forth, and we had some discussions about that, and I want to thank him for helping me get through that. And by the way, I recently noticed that Matt has started a new build series for a new Trek ship, so please check that out. Other people, like I said, I really want to thank Ralph Tenaglia and his team at Tenor Controls. Evans Designs is a great source for lighting material. It's where I get a lot of my SMD lights, my bulb lights, my LED lights, and it's where I get the power cords, the power block that really fuels everything. HDA Model Works also is a good source for some electronics. Fantastic aftermarket decals and other products as well. JT Graphics is a company that made the registry markings that I used. And of course, as I mentioned, Phil with Sprueverse. There's going to be a full list of acknowledgments in the credits at the end of this series. But for now, I've wrapped this ship up and it's spaceworthy, and it is about to launch. So this is the official launch of my build of the 1/350 scale Polar Lights Refit Enterprise, USS Enterprise NCC 1701, as we see in Star Trek the Motion Picture. Has it been worth the 17-month journey, the frustrations, the near heart attacks to get to this point? Well, I'll have to say yes, it is. This is a beautiful craft. This is a beautiful ship. This is a really beautiful model. I really like all of the lights that are in the ship and the lighting features of the Tenor Controls board. And I am really glad that I undertook this journey to build this outstanding vessel. I've seen a few posts and a few comments from other builders wondering if they should take this ship on, if they should take this build on. Some say they have them sitting in the box, some say they're about to order them, and wonder really if they want to take it on. I'll have to say again, yes, it is worth the journey. This is such a fantastic ship. I think that any builder would be proud to have it in their collection, would be proud to have the achievement of completing the build. Again, take a look at how beautiful this massive model is. Just the scale of it is one of the things that gives it so much beauty. It makes all of the lighting features look so fantastic, particularly in the dim light. And certainly there's a lot of resources out there to help you. There's a lot of great aftermarket products and a lot of great how to build series. So I would encourage anyone to take a deep breath, open up the box, and get started on your large-scale refit Enterprise kit with lighting. So what's next for Walker Street Shipyards? Well, as I said way back in Chapter 1, my first love is building figure kits. My next build is going to be X Plus's model, excellent model of Marilyn Monroe. Then also I'm going to undertake my first bust, which is going to be the bust of Boris Karloff in the film The Body Snatcher. It's made by Pestilence Labs. It's an excellent kit. An interesting thing about the film Body Snatcher, and a little bit of circular hobby lore, is that The Body Snatcher with Boris Karloff was directed by Robert Wise, who several decades later would go on to direct Star Trek the Motion Picture, which was the launch movie for this ship, the Refit Enterprise. There will be future Starship builds for Walker Street Shipyards. I really want to build Polar Lights 350 scale original Star Trek series Enterprise and its lighting system. That kit is not on the market right now, but I've got my eye out for when it becomes available. I think the next ship that I'm going to build is an older kit from Mobius Models, and that is the Voyager from the late 60s cartoon series Fantastic Voyage. This is a fairly easy kit, and I think I'm going to try to knock it out in just 2, maybe 3 chapters, really in just a couple of weeks. Not another big mammoth multi-year project like the Refit Enterprise. So again, thanks to everyone for coming with me and joining me on my first ever build series. Please, if you haven't done so far, subscribe to the channel, because there will be more work coming from Walker Street Shipyards.